I was just at Politicon. This is the 4th year in a row that I've closed out that convention with a debate against a right-winger. And it has been an interesting set of folks. And what I wanted to do here was tell you the differences in their debating style and substance, and what I learned from it, including the debate with Tucker Carlson last night that we had. And for the members, I'm gonna go deeper, and I'm gonna tell you what I would have told Tucker Carlson if the debate had gone in a different direction, especially if it had gone in a more antagonistic direction. So tyt.com/join to become a member. And in the post games and in the 18 other shows we have, we give you a more progressive take on the issues, including this one. So now, here's roughly the 4, and then we can have a conversation about it. Ann Coulter is someone who's an actress. And so in the beginning of the debate with her, I tried to get her to basically admit that she doesn't really mean it. She almost did it. And if you watch that debate, at some point, she says, well, I mean, come on. And then corrects herself, catches herself. And from then on, that turning point, she then went over the top and talked about the browning of America and how deplorable it was that we were letting peasants in. And so then I became more antagonistic based on her outrageous comments, okay? And then Dinesh D'Souza is actually the saddest of the lot, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, you know, Joe Ricketts is a major Republican donor. He's the owner of the Chicago Cubs and Ameritrade. And back in 2012, he commissioned a report that said, we need a brown-skinned person to attack Obama, okay?
They found him.
Well, mission accomplished. And Dinesh D'Souza did, of course, a giant movie about how Obama is against colonialism. Dinesh, where your family originally came from, suffered greatly under colonialism. But they needed someone to do their bidding. And he makes outrageous, ridiculous points. So for the Dinesh's of the world, it's not really worth talking to them anymore, if you ask me. I mean, what's the guy gonna do? He gets paid to put out offensive talking points on purpose. I remember he now defends Trump as having great moral character. And he said Obama had bad moral character because he used a selfie stick in the White House. And he said it was a ghetto thing to do. That's who Dinesh D'Souza is. Okay, no interest in that guy. Ben Shapiro is a robot. So he does not care to engage in a conversation. He's not trying to learn something. He's not fascinated by your point of view and how it juxtaposes to his point of view. He's got his talking points. He's ready to unleash them. He's got his guys ready to make clips out of them afterwards. He has a very specific purpose. It's a business, and he's going to do this. And then all of his guys are going to say, doesn't matter, fill in the blank. Whoever he talks to, whether it's on TV, in a debate, etc., crushed, destroyed, disemboweled. And then my favorite, as I've told you several times, is when his guys get the talking points confused, and in the streets they'll say, oh, Ben Shapiro ate you. Not what you think it means. Okay, so anyway, so it's a machine. And his job is not to have a conversation, but to get out his talking points as fast as he can, because the right wing, if you speak fast, confuses that for intellect. Okay, now we go to Tucker Carlson. And here's where the interesting surprise came in. We had a real conversation, and he was a real person. I was kind of blown away by that. And so I completely changed what I was going to say based on what Tucker was doing. If Tucker had taken a Ben Shapiro or Dinesh D'Souza or Ann Coulter line, then I would have attacked him, and I had a whole series of attacks ready. That's what we'll talk about in the post game for the members. But Tucker often said, oh, that's interesting. And maybe you have a decent point on this and not one on that, right? And so then we could actually have a conversation as actual human beings and not robots regurgitating talking points. So for example, when he talks about, hey, everybody that comes here needs to speak English, well, I have a point of view on that is not necessarily liberal orthodoxy, and I shared that, and I'm willing to share that. I'm not gonna give any ground or an inch to Dinesh D'Souza or Ben Shapiro, because that's not what they're looking for. They would only use it against you, right? But if you're having a conversation with a human, you could actually go back and forth and go, okay, that makes sense and that doesn't make sense. And I think that so I don't want people to take him conceding points as a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of intellect and having a conversation. Now, on the other hand, Tucker says terrible things on the air. So I'm conflicted by that, and I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah.
But I have to confess that it was nice to talk to a non-robot.
Do you mind if I jump in?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so
I've actually been saying something similar about Tucker Carlson for a while now. He just wrote a book, and the whole point of the book is like, oh my goodness, the elitists are so bad, they're so terrible, they've destroyed everything. Basically, we need to turn power back over to the people. And he's kind of doing a Steve Bannon-esque thing where he's kind of a fake populist. Now, there's a reason I say fake and not just populist, because the trick that he does is he will say a lot of the right things. In fact, now he even says like, oh, I'm against the wars. In fact, he kind of berated neocon John Bolton. But ultimately, he ends up supporting Donald Trump. So, and don't get me wrong, the arguments on their own merit are pretty good when he says, hey, I hate the neocons and I hate the elitists who've ruined everything. But if your solution is more of the problem, and we now know because Donald Trump's policies exacerbate the problem, he really is of the establishment and he's totally elitist. That's what all of his policies have been since he's been in office.
He brags about it.
Well, then he's a snake oil. Then Tucker Carlson is a snake oil salesman. And I'm not trying to say that as like, to put him down or anything or take a pot shot. I'm just saying that if you're backing Donald Trump and you're pretending to be anti-establishment, you're simply not anti-establishment.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump literally bragged that he's like, I'm the elite. What do you mean? He said it in a rally. He's like, oh, these other guys claiming to be elites, I'm the elite. Hey, knucklehead, you're not supposed to admit that. Remember, you ran an anti-elitist campaign, but he can't help himself. So I hear what you're saying, and I think there's a lot more problems with what Tucker Carlson says on Fox News, especially related to culture and demographics. But to be fair to him, even on the wars, so is it real or not real? Okay, one, you yell at John Bolton about Syria on air. That's real because
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, Trump watches it. Yep. And on the Iraq War, he turned within 1 year. He didn't wait 17 years. I mean, Hillary Clinton took longer to turn.
Oh, is that true? He turned within a year? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just did a lot of research on him, so I know. So he was like, yep, I was wrong. I gave in to, my instinct said not to go into Iraq, but I gave in to people who I thought were smarter than me, et cetera. It was a mistake, and I regret it, and I can't believe others haven't turned on it. So that's significant.
I think you're wrong. And here's why. I think you're overthinking Tucker Carlson's political opinions or thoughts. I think you're discounting human psychology and what happens to you when you show up at an event realizing that you read a teleprompter every day for your job, that you somehow miraculously can do a daily news program and write a book simultaneously, which is nearly impossible if you actually do the research necessary to report the news and share your real analysis and real opinions. I think he showed up, became intimidated by this giant crowd that was there to see this debate essentially, and noticed that you came prepared. And so an easy way to get through that situation without too much pain is to be more agreeable. And I think that's the reason why he really minimized and downplayed some of the stuff that he says on Fox News on a regular basis. So what he said on Fox News about how scary it is when the demographics start to change, that was fear-mongering about immigration, okay? But again, he downplayed that when you called him out on it during this debate. And so again, it's less painful to just be agreeable, and he kept calling you smart. Which you are. I'm not trying to pretend like you're not.
And it's like, I mean, what are the chances, right?
No, but like
obviously just trying to be agreeable.
To me, that was like, if you pay close attention, it's subtle, but it was obvious to me. It was a white flag. Well, like it was, let me compliment him, let me point to his good points, call him smart, and hopefully he doesn't maul me, which you could have easily done.
So yeah, I really disagree, and it's fascinating that there's different. My favorite conspiracy theory from someone who works here is that he's trying to red pill you guys, that is seeming to agree with you guys, so you'll watch him and then you'll buy into his point about immigrants being bad and how we got to have one culture here.
But if you watch him, his rhetoric is the antithesis of what you experienced during that debate, right?
That's the part that's jarring and hard to square, and that's why to me. And that's why I enjoyed this debate so much more because it's Tucker Carlson's a mystery. I know exactly what I'm going to get with Dinesh D'Souza. as a really sad, pathetic man who's going to do the same exact talking points. Charlie Kirk, every time he does a debate with Hassan Piker, as he did at Politicon twice now and with others, he will mention Venezuela every time. You might write it down in stone, right?
I got him to come out in favor of some good positions. I don't know how I did it. Well, actually, I do know how I did it. I'm lying. What I did is, and this is something that I think works, is if you go into a debate and you frame the conversation from their ideology, then it's hard for them to disagree. So I said, I know you believe in small government, and hey, a lot of people do. Sometimes that makes sense. Well, let me tell you the areas where I believe in small government. And I said, warrantless NSA spying, the government's way too big. I want the government out of your life there. The drug war, I want the government out of your life there. Foreign policy, let's shrink the size of the military and let's have smaller government. And when you frame it from their ideology, it's already a checkmate. Because then if he disagrees, now he's in favor of big government. So I think that that's actually one of the reasons why your conversation with Tucker, I actually enjoyed it, because I do think it was a real conversation. Now, some of it, maybe he was being disingenuous, to Anna's point, but I do think other parts of it, no, you were there to push him, so you in turn made him more nuanced, and he was able to flesh out those issues better than when he just sounds like a demagogue on Fox talking about the demographic changes. And I do. I think it was a really good debate, a really good discussion. I'm happy you did it. And I saw that Glenn Greenwald tweeted that, hey, this was a really good debate, very substantive. So I hope we see more of that. And I have to say, I'm less surprised by your discussion with him turning out the way it did than I am by the fact that Charlie Kirk somehow agreed on some left issues.
And in fact, to give, of all, and this is going to be maybe the most surprising thing I say, but to give Charlie Kirk a little bit of credit.
No,
okay.
I'm stopping.
Wrong.
Is in that panel that you were on, there was another conservative from the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's website.
Oh, he was hilariously stupid.
Yeah, but that guy was a robot.
Yes.
You were never going to move him off of any position. He's like, whatever the Republican position is, I 100% agree with it. It doesn't have to make sense.
Did you see the pro-life part?
Yeah, I mean, yes, he's, of course, but that's a common thing. They all say that they're pro-life, then Kyle challenges them on death penalty, and he's like,
I believe in the death penalty.
100%. It's great to murder people.
Into the trap.
Right, I know. But he really doesn't care, because he's a robot, right? He's sent to do Republican talking points. Whereas Charlie in that conversation at least had some points that I don't think he just made up on the spot. I think he probably is against warrantless wiretapping.
He presents himself as a libertarian, so let's be clear about that. He doesn't consider himself a conservative. I think the real disagreement comes about when you start talking about economic policies, including deregulation and taxation, stuff like that. That's when he keeps his donors in mind and spews, those talking points about how somehow, deregulating and getting rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is going to be good for you as an average American.
Well, but that goes to people's intentions, and hence let's conclude on this, because what does Charlie Kirk get paid for? And that's why he got triggered when I asked him, what's your salary in the middle of the debate with him.
I live like a capitalist every day, Cenk.
I don't know what do?
I give charity every single year.
I give to charity every single year. By the way, I looked into that. No, he doesn't. The charity that he gives to is basically the nonprofit foundation tied to Turning Point USA. So, anyway,
I also give to the Cenk Uygur charity, to be fair. No, seriously though, I don't know what I live like a capitalist every day means. But okay, so what does Charlie get paid for? He gets paid by those incredibly rich donors to make sure that they have low tax cuts. So warrantless wiretapping, Foster Friess is like, don't care. Tax cuts, I care. Charlie, go tell everybody tax cuts is awesome. And Tucker, I think that if he wasn't on Fox News, might have more interesting conversations like the ones that we had, and we could have an interesting debate, and not even a debate, but a discussion between libertarian right wing and left wing, and neither one of us is tied to a particular party. I criticize the Democratic Party all the time, and I did during the debate. He, from time to time, criticizes the Republican Party. I think less so, but he's on Fox News, and Fox News 101 is demagoguing. Fear of the others that are invading your country. It's largely an audience that is very old, very white, very male, and so that's catnip for them, and that pays the bills. So that's my best guess. So speaking of his audience, that's among the insults that I had planned that I did not use that we'll talk about in the postgame. tyt.com/join to become a member and get that and all the postgames every day. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.